Ladies and gentlemen, I am not even kidding today. Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Toxic Happy Hour, where we are toxic towards scams that delay the adoption of global sound money. We have an absolute mind-blowing session for you guys here today. Not only do we have, first and foremost, Pierre Rochard, who is the legendary chairman of the non-charity organization called Non-Charity, and then on top of that, this is turning into a bit of a gate crashing party. We had last Friday, Knut Svanholm gate crashed Robert Breedlove when Pubby no longer could keep his eyes open, and today Pierre graciously accepted a Preston Pysh knock on the door gate crash. And Preston is a guy that we have been looking up to, I guess, since he started crossing macroeconomics with Bitcoin about a year ago. So we're pretty stoked here. We're trying to keep our breath sort of at a steady level. Pierre and Preston, thank you so much for coming on to the Toxic Happy Hour. Like we know that if you have ballers gate crashing your party, then you have a baller party. Welcome to the baller party. Guys, welcome. And what are you drinking? Let's start with you, Pierre.
Just water out of this big Yeti, because I have a full day of back-to-back calls about Bitcoin. So I gotta take it easy.
I hear you. Preston, welcome to you. We are so happy that you knocked the door. Awesome.
Cheers. I've got some just coffee and a splash of Bailey's in there.
I like it. Dirty and sweet. Pubby, what are you having today?
Yeah, after work here, so I can start off with the Indian Pale Ale. Just doing a Sierra Nevada.
Nice. So yeah, let's get it started. I think today we'll probably, I have thrown all my preparation out the window because I just want to hear Preston and Pierre talk, to be honest. Pierre, why don't we start with you a little bit about I don't know how you got started in the space. So if you want to talk about how you started the non-charity organization, how that all came about, like, what do you want to tell us?
Yeah, so it's Preston who got me into this space, and by that I mean that he was one of the people that got me into podcasting, and I enjoyed listening to his podcast, and we did a show together like at the end of 2017, and I got a really great response from it, and I thought to myself, well, okay, we could do more podcasts, and I made podcasts with Michael Goldstein as well, and so that's the Noted Bitcoin podcast, NODED. I gotta show my stuff, right?
Sure.
And before that, though, what really got me into this space was Wikipedia. I stumbled onto a Wikipedia article about anarcho-capitalism in 2005. I was a junior in high school. I had no business learning about anarcho-capitalism at that point, but it immediately appealed to me. I immediately got very interested in it, started learning about Austrian economics, which led me to sound money, gold, 100% reserve banking. And I loved the idea that this is an explanation of the business cycle that makes sense, because all the other explanations I'd heard didn't really make sense. And it felt like, especially at the time I was in France, and so the whole economics education there was like, well, you have the evil neoclassical capitalists represented by Milton Friedman, who want to enslave the workers to, work for the capitalists. And then you have the sort of okay Keynesians, who are going to use public works programs to free the workers. I don't know how that works. But then you have the benevolent and wonderful Marxists, who are looking out for everyone's best interests and who really would establish utopia on Earth if we let them. And that was the economics education I got in France. But in parallel, I was reading about Murray Rothbard, Ludwig von Mises, and Hayek, and of course Hans Hermann Hoppe. And these folks had a completely different message, which was that it's not the Catholics that are the enemy, it's the state. And so that's really what first radicalized me, because that message made way more sense than the other one. And then when I heard about Bitcoin the first time, I heard about it in the context of the Silk Road. And I already had a drug dealer, so I didn't need to use the Silk Road, and it didn't really appeal to me. I didn't dig in enough into Bitcoin to figure out the 21 million Bitcoin scarcity, right? The second time I heard about it was in the context of arguing with libertarians about sound money. And that's when it got brought up that, hey, look, Bitcoin's scarce, 21 million Bitcoin. And then it clicked. I was like, oh, well, that's actually the perfect money. That's definitely going to reach, 100% adoption, and everyone's going to want this, and its value is going to skyrocket. Its purchasing power is only going to increase. And so that was like late 2012, early 2013. I was a broke college student, so it wasn't like I'm like Barry Silbert, going all in, or the Winklevi with their winnings from the Mark Zuckerberg settlement. But I still, what I had in terms of wealth was intellectual capital, right? And so I started writing about Bitcoin. I wrote "End the Fed, Hoard Bitcoins" in February of 2013. The price was at like $20. And people responded well to it. So I wrote a few more pieces. And then my favorite piece that I wrote was "Speculative Attack" in 2014. And after writing that piece, I kind of felt like I didn't want to write more, because I'd made a prediction, right, that there were going to be speculative attacks, and that before writing more, I should wait for that prediction to become true. So fast forward 6 years, and we have Michael Saylor borrowing $650 million at 0.75%. And I feel like the speculative attacks have begun in earnest. And so I'm very excited about seeing that piece come to fruition. And that's, I've been very interested in accounting. I've written Bitcoin accounting software. I'm interested in Bitcoin software more generally, in Lightning. We can get into that, but that'll take up hours and hours and hours of conversation. So I'll pause here.
It's okay. We're gonna call your, the people working for you and reschedule those meetings. Pubby, before I give the word to Preston, I'm asking from Greggy in the chat if we can zoom in a little bit more. We see just your eyes, and it'd be great if we could see them even more. Preston,
sure.
We want
your back.
Preston, can you do you want to comment on Pierre's wonderful words of Bitcoin poetry here?
Well, I think the speculative attack piece, everyone's using that term and they might not even know where it came from. And here's the guy that wrote the piece. So
hold on, Preston. Here's the kicker. That phrase, speculative attack, was coined by none other than Paul Krugman.
That you borrowed and
pillaged.
And you pillaged it. I mean, what an article. I mean, what a forecast way before it happened. You could see, in order to make calls like that early on, you have to have a really deep fundamental understanding of just economically how everything's going to play out. And you have to understand the incentive structure of businesses and how they're going to put it on their balance sheet. And then the ones that have the strong balance sheet, and like Michael Saylor, and how they're going to react, and how they're going to lever themselves, and how they're going to, increase their debt to equity, and they're going to employ that capital into Bitcoin. To be able to see something like that as early as Pierre was seeing it, just tells you the depth of knowledge that he had way before where we're at right now. But yeah, I mean, I love the term, and I think that it's a perfect term to use. It's interesting. Kathy Wood, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kathy Wood, really big tech person in the finance space, runs a bunch of ETFs. It's interesting, her opinion, and this hasn't aired yet, her opinion is that the SEC is actually going to take a much closer look at the debt deal that MicroStrategy did. So her discussion on this, one of our other hosts, Trey Lockerbie, was having a conversation with her just very recently. It hasn't aired yet, but that was one of her opinions. I found that quite interesting. And I also find it interesting that even if the SEC starts to examine that particular play, I just don't know how they're going to prevent it from a private company standpoint, right? So people think of private company versus public company. Well, what are you going to do for all the private companies that are out there levering themselves and going out and buying Bitcoin? Like, you're just not going to be able to turn it off. And I think that what you might find from a legal framework is, I know if I was a lawyer on for like MicroStrategy or somebody else, and this is all speculative, like that, none of this has actually happened with the SEC, right? This is her opinion on what might transpire in the months and quarters to come. But I think if I was a lawyer representing and that case actually went forward, I'd be like, well, how can I compete against a private company if you're going to tie my hands behind my back and force me to not be able to do something like this? So it's going to get interesting. It's going to get real interesting. I'm curious, Pierre, you look like you have a comment on it.
I do. So I can't comment on MicroStrategy and any SEC actions there, but more broadly, when there is a speculative attack, there are two forms of response. The first one is a response in terms of capital and currency controls. So using the the monopoly on violence that the state has to stop the speculative attack by making it illegal and saying, hey, you're not allowed to borrow money to buy Bitcoin. You're not allowed to borrow the weak currency to buy the strong currency, right? And so we've seen capital and currency controls happen around the world in past speculative attacks. So they definitely will use that policy tool in their tool bag. I don't want to call them tools, but anyway, then the other second thing that the other response that they have in a speculative attack is to defend the currency using monetary market-based, quote unquote, means. So within that, there's two things. One is Forex reserves. Okay, the government has very small Forex reserves, the U.S. federal government. All they have right now is $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's not enough, right? Bitcoin daily volumes for Bitcoin are like 10 billion now. Other governments, maybe they have more Bitcoin that we don't know about, but by and large, governments are no-coiners. They're very poor, so they don't have the ability to go and sell Bitcoin into the market in order to stabilize their exchange rate versus Bitcoin. The second policy tool from a monetary perspective is to raise interest rates. So that makes it more expensive to borrow the weak currency. So in the case of Michael Saylor, like he's borrowing at 0.75%, which reflects kind of the prime interest rate for a corporate borrower in the market.
Which I think was a high rate for him to pay based on the oversubscription.
Correct. Yes. So clearly the market is saying that the rate could have been lower.
Or the strike price could have been higher.
Yeah. So what the Fed needs to do to stop this from happening using interest rates is that they would need to raise interest rates to maybe from 0% to maybe 20% or 50%, right? Because the reason it has to be that high is because the expected returns on Bitcoin, you're talking about like 1,000%. So in order, you got to make the funding extremely expensive. The problem with raising interest rates is that it's not targeted, right? You would be raising interest rates for 30-year mortgages to 20 to 50%. Who can afford that? The real estate market would immediately collapse.
Yeah, your whole asset market just melts.
The entire banking system would be completely insolvent, and it would completely collapse if they raised interest rates. So they can't raise interest rates. They're poor. They don't have any Bitcoin. So the only tool they have available to them is capital controls and currency controls. It's financial fascism, right? Of let's use the brute force of the state, the violence of it, to force people to not buy Bitcoin. Now, I think that as Preston pointed out, the problem with capital controls and currency controls is that they're actually also very ineffective. They've been tried. They don't work because there's just too many ways around them. And you're basically trying to grab onto water. It's money is water. It flows around you. It doesn't. You're not going to be able to freeze it. And if you do freeze it, it's a melting ice cube, right? And so,
to your point there. So when you were talking earlier, and you're saying that the money, you're borrowing bad currency to buy good currency, right? And historically, when you've seen this play out in whatever region of the world we're talking about, it's unique to that region, or it's that domestic border. Now, where this is so different is you literally having it playing out all at the same time on a global scale. Everybody in the entire world is in the same boat. So then what they're doing is they're looking from one country to the next and saying, well, they aren't being as restrictive with the way that they're trying to prevent this from happening. And if we fast forward a year or 5 years from now, they're going to be way ahead because they don't have any type of restrictions on this type of activity. So that's where I think the more they play out the scenario, and the more that you see other companies step in and do what Michael did all over the globe, the more I think they're going to come to the realization of, hey, maybe we need to start doing what they're doing at the corporate level up here at the sovereign level. And maybe we shouldn't be so restrictive on this stuff. In fact, maybe we should make it accommodative for this kind of stuff to attract as much of it into our domestic space as possible. Now, whether you have intelligent policymakers at the helm, I mean, look at what's happening right now in Miami, right? You have a key leader who has critical thinking skills that can see the direction that a lot of this is going, and he's trying to attract it into that local region. You're going to see that happen out in municipalities. You're going to see it happen in the state level. You're going to see it at the national level, all over the world. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and they don't have the luxury of having a printing press.
Yeah.
So they don't really have any loyalty to the Federal Reserve or to federal monetary policy making. To them, they're trying to serve their local constituents.
Yep.
And if they can't print dollars, they've got to find a different way of serving them. And I agree that they're going to, they have been and will continue to be very interested in Bitcoin, and eventually adding it to their treasuries, accepting tax payments in Bitcoin, and then globally, not every jurisdiction is happy about the U.S. dollar being the world reserve currency. And some of them are, maybe they're already dollarized, so they don't even have a national currency. So they don't care at all about helping the U.S. dollar. That to them, it's they're ready to defect once Bitcoin becomes liquid enough, which I think that it's slowly but surely getting there, and the infrastructure is getting put into place. And so the extent of the currency and capital controls that would be needed to even just slow down hyper-Bitcoinization is so extreme that I actually don't think that it's going to be a something that they even try. So I'm skeptical. That's where I'm skeptical about what Kathy's talking about.
Yeah, me too.
I know that the rule of law has been eroded in the United States, but not to this extent.
I'm more concerned about the government lawyers going up against MicroStrategy lawyers. I just don't see how they're going to possibly be able to defend themselves.
The government lawyers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they have to make an argument that is based on Keynesian macroeconomics. Right? Because there isn't really a microeconomics argument against it of well, you should not be allowed to capitalize your business.
I mean, you're going up against a lawyer that makes $10,000 an hour versus,
well, that too. Yeah.
That makes significantly less. Yeah.
Yeah. The caliber, and, in one way it's it's bad that the United States legal system is kind of whoever has the most money wins. And so, for example, we've seen like even ICOs that this show might be toxic towards, we're able to settle with the SEC because they just have more money than the SEC has. And so they can just pay off the SEC. I think that we'll see a similar thing, you know, where maybe MicroStrategy will have to pay, you know, $10 million to the SEC to make them go away, whatever, right? Cost of doing business when, you know, their stock price is quintupling.
Uh-oh.
No, it's keep going.
Here we go.
No,
Hey,
it's an app that I built. Pubby, I will give you the word because it's an app that I built that when the bell goes, it means you should be all in Bitcoin, and when there's no sound, you should stay all in. Puppy, what's up, Puppy?
Yeah, so you know, it's been an interesting year to say the least between you know, obviously COVID-19 and a change. If you guys can go back for a few and just maybe go over a bit of what we're looking at. You know, look, number go up technology. It's December 2017. My first purchase is at $17,000, whatever. I stuck around, man. I just stuck around, fell down the rabbit hole, stayed with it. The narrative, of course, had always been, hey, this is a peer-to-peer money. Roger Ver decided to put the cart before the horse and go his way. This year, man, to me, the store value thing had never really occurred. I knew it was a store value, but I didn't realize, wait, this guy can just take this and just put it on a balance sheet for 100 years and never use it. Yeah, so is Bitcoin in your mind just something that, aside from large settlement transactions, it's 1,000% successful just because you hold it on your balance sheet?
Yeah, I think no doubt. I mean, that's how I've been approaching it. I was putting on my company's balance sheet back in 2015 for a private company, right? And I think that the reason that you see so many private companies, or you don't see so many private companies doing it, is because, first of all, they don't have to report it. But the reason that you see a lot of private companies, in my humble opinion, doing it, even though I don't have proof of it, is because like my business, I have control of the voting rights. A lot of the times when you have a private company, it might be a 50 or $100 million kind of company, and the person and the founder of that company has complete control of everything that's happening. So they're thinking in a business mindset, hey, how can I outpace this inflation that's happening? Let me buy some of this. Let me put it on my balance sheet, which would typically be what you do with a marketable security. So like as I retain earnings in my business, I can go buy Apple stock, or I can go buy whatever kind of stock. Instead of doing that, now they're starting to buy Bitcoin. You know, I've heard some people say that it's the new share buyback. I completely agree with that. I think by the end of 2021, it's going to be for publicly traded companies. If you don't have some type of percentage of this on your balance sheet, you're going to be looked at as being, you know, kind of missing the boat. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be, to answer your question, if it just serves as a store of value and that you cannot be debased against, that's a win. That's a win in itself.
Preston, I have a question for you. This is something I've been wondering about since MicroStrategy sold the convertible bonds of 650 million to buy Bitcoin. I think you kind of confirmed it on Twitter once. I asked you, but I want to be clear about this and share it with the audience. So MicroStrategy have the profit and loss that they have, and even if that doesn't change, the fact that Bitcoin's price go up, does that mean that they can once again sell convertible bonds just because the debt to equity has gone down with the same balance, like the same profit and loss?
All over it. Yeah, absolutely. Because think about it like this. So when you look at the exactly, it's mind blowing, because when you look at how a person who's buying that debt is looking at it, they're looking at it from a risk standpoint. So they're saying, what's the probability that this person's able to make the coupon payments? And then really importantly, are they able to pay back the face value whenever the debt matures? And when you're looking at MicroStrategy right now, they've got double the face value. They don't have to set up, and Pierre could get into all the specifics from an accounting standpoint. They don't have to set up some type of sunk account that they're paying into in order to make sure they have enough for the face value whenever it comes due at 5 years, right? He's already got double that amount. sitting right there liquid on his balance sheet. Now it's pretty volatile, but it's volatile going up. So it's easy for him to make a 75 basis coupon payment. I think if he had to do it again, he might try to do it at 0% and see what kind of subscription rate he gets. I know I would, but maybe his advisors or whoever he does the deal through would maybe advise against it. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, so as that value keeps going higher, his ability to pay it back, or the risk of him being able to pay it back, just goes lower and lower and lower, so he can just do the deal again.
Right. So what couple of things I love about this speculative attack, as Pierre, you predicted 7 years ago, is so when private investors on BitMEX go leverage long, then in a price correction, they get a long squeeze and they are forced to sell their Bitcoin. The price drops further. But when someone like Michael Saylor buys Bitcoin this way, they are not up as collateral. So he's never forced to sell. So if you have a couple of companies that are buying each time it goes up a little bit, and they're never forced to sell in a correction, they can just help each other, like build the entire pyramid. And I mean that has a wrong annotation, but to me, this in itself would be enough for escape velocity, which I want to talk to all three of you about this cycle. But it is mind-blowingly bullish to me. It is it's such a double buy turbo on the bull run that these guys are not forced to sell, but they can just help get the price up. Someone else buy more.
Yeah, and one of the amazing things is not only might we just not have any currency or capital controls, we might see the Federal Reserve buying these bonds and putting it on their balance sheet. And to them, it's part of effective monetary policy is buying corporate bonds today for some reason. So I think that I wouldn't be surprised. So now we're looking at MicroStrategy, which has this kind of explicit mandate of we're issuing these bonds to buy Bitcoin. But the bottom line is that any company can issue bonds just to get cash, right? And then they don't have to specifically designate what the bond offering is going to pay for. And then the other part is that there's companies that already have plenty of cash on their balance sheet, trillions of dollars of public market company cash that could just FOMO in overnight. And there's not really any mechanism in place that would stop that from happening. Now, other than boards and CEOs, right? But look, let's look at what happened in March with COVID last year. At the flip of a switch, everyone changed their mind about COVID, right? Everyone went from, hey, it's just the flu, to this is the apocalypse within 1 week, right? And so it's, people live in herd mentality. Mobs form, unfortunately, right? Sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. And in this case, I think for good. And I would not be surprised to kind of see a big run during this bull market, which really kind of starts breaking models, whether it's the quad 4 model or the S2F model, where it kind of exceeds expectations because of that herd mentality.
So, I was just going to jump in on this is, you guys get to deal with, like Jeff Booth is on these different boards. You talk with all these people that are smart. And they're sitting here watching Saylor. What I think he's dollar cost average into 16,000 or 17,000 for Bitcoin. He may have bought more. I don't know, but what the hell takes him so long? Is it? I get the part where you may not have full control of the board, but my God, how has there not been so much more coming out from companies going all in?
That's the point, is they don't have control of the board. They don't have the voting rights. And so even if you have a great idea and you're brilliant on the board and you'd explain why you need to do this, if the other 5 people on the board just don't get it, which, I mean, you can just step into Twitter for 10 minutes and realize that most people just can't get this. And so the board members are in that boat. And so they're there trying to convince these board members to just even put a small allocation of 1%. And they're just not having it.
And the nice thing about finance, though, is that there's a million different ways around that, in the sense that, for example, let's say you own 20% of the company, right? So you can't make the company buy. You can go to your prime brokerage and borrow against that 20% and go buy Bitcoin, right? There's like, or you could sell your shares. And even if you have a private business, for example, if you can't get a loan from the bank to go buy some Bitcoin because they don't, they're underwriting blah blah blah, just sell your business, walk away from it, load up on Bitcoin and start another business. Obviously, you know how to do it. So there's, I think, going to be an increasing like exit of if entrepreneurs and if founders can't get their way in terms of having a well-capitalized business that's ready for the future, they will route around anyone getting in their way, and they'll find how to get Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
So what do you think on a personal level? Because of course we have, we're talking about when, retail coming in and everything else. And what's interesting, like, dear God, you'd sell a kidney to get 75 basis points like Michael Saylor did to buy more Bitcoin. But quite honestly, the 210,000 block theory of there's never been any downtime over any 210,000 block period in Bitcoin. But to me, I'm looking at like, a 10% loan is for just take out a couple grand at 10% for 5 years is absolutely a no-brainer. Is it, you guys ever think like that, like on a more a personal financial level? I know we can't give financial advice, but my God, what's the actual percentage rate as we're going into what I think is going to be an epic bull run? You're almost crazy not to.
So the problem is that if you lever up by cash out refinancing your mortgage, and for whatever reason you run into financial trouble, you've got to liquidate your Bitcoin or lose your house, right? And so that's a bigger problem on a personal level than for Michael Saylor. Like, okay, MicroStrategy goes under, or for a portfolio manager, their 5% allocation goes to zero. That's a loss that they can absorb. On an individual level, you got to be really careful because there's losses that'll wipe you out if you're leveraged. And on an individual level, what I'd really recommend is, go in unlevered so that you can withstand anything, and really focus on selling chairs, right? On cutting expenses,
right?
And on increasing your income.
On a personal level, you just can't step into the market and sell common stock and come up with a bunch of money like Elon Musk. That's the challenge.
No, I'll tell you, those people that have been here for a while, a few years, okay, they, look, man, they dollar cost average, they weathered the storm. They've got enough equity in Bitcoin now. It's almost as if, well, damn, I can just do my own personal. I can easily sell a bit if it crashes. But at this point, it's one of those things like with Michael Saylor was, he had almost doubled his money already. So it was a no-brainer for him to leverage more because he'll always be at the top.
Yeah, it's interesting when you do that comparison and how like I look at the Michael Saylor deal, and for me is the most obvious thing on the planet that he should have done. When I look at a person, an individual going out and levering themselves, it all depends on how much they make and how much they've already banked and what their net worth is.
Right.
But I would tell you that they just can't necessarily do the deal the same way that Michael Saylor did the deal, because like I just said earlier, for him, if things start falling apart, he can step into the market, completely debase the value of his shares to raise capital, and get himself back into a position that he can start maybe taking a different strategy in the event that like we're just dead wrong about all this, right? Where the individual doesn't necessarily have that flexibility in order to raise capital and debase their earnings power like you can as an individual company.
Yeah. Yes. A lot of it is how close are you to the money spigot, to the Federal Reserve, right?
Yeah.
If you're standing right by it and you can scoop up that 0% funding, then that's one thing. And then if you're a little bit further away from it, you've got public company stocks and bonds. That's pretty good. Commercial bank, right? Commercial banks. Have we heard about any acquiring Bitcoin yet? But I'm sure that It's in the cards, given the OCC, what the OCC is signaling. I wouldn't be surprised if they start saying, "Hey, look, as part of your capital requirements as a commercial bank, you should be holding some Bitcoin in reserve." Right? That would be a totally reasonable thing to do. And then if you get further away to like the furthest is someone with a credit card with 20% interest rate on it, right? And that's a really high funding rate, and I don't think that it's smart to take that route. I think you've got to really, increase your income, lower your expenses, or get closer to the money spigot by IPOing a company, doing a SPAC. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah, it's funny. I had put it out once as a poll of, what would you do? What do you think about borrowing money to buy Bitcoin at this point? And I think this is just in the summer. Basically, never ever take a loan. Just buy as you go. I put it like 5 to 10%, 1 to 15 to 20, and then the other one was like, screw it, put it on the credit card. And what's amazing is it was like literally almost 25% across the board. So we got some gamblers out there ready to put some Bitcoin on their credit card.
Andrews. Yeah, as much as Preston and I might preach about some financial responsibility, it's inevitable that people are going to do this, right? There's nothing that look. We can talk about, hey, altcoins are a bad idea. People are going to effing buy altcoins. Like, there's no stopping that, right? And that's really the problem for regulators, is that they can say, oh, we're going to have capital controls, but how do you prevent someone from racking up their credit card bill and rolling it month to month instead of and then using their cash to buy Bitcoin, right? Because there's unless you create a total financial surveillance state and you start beating people with a stick, they're going to do it.
No, I absolutely agree.
Preston, I wanted to ask you. You said like if you could buy bonds at 0% at MicroStrategy, you would even do that. But the bondholders don't have any upside apart from the fiat, right? Like, you're not going to get stock or anything like that. Like,
well, no, that's what's so awesome about the MicroStrategy deal for all the people in the debt market is it is convertible into common stock, and so. That's where this deal, if you don't have the convertibility piece to this, you're not going to be oversubscribed like Michael was at 75 basis points. The fact that it was convertible, and I think the convertibility was in the high 300s, like right around $400. I think the stock price is what, 650 now? What's the MicroStrategy stock price right now? Does anyone?
No, someone look it up, because I know it's off the chart. Obviously, it's
off the chart. So this is my point. Is like. To basically bring the oversubscription down into the level that you were actually going after, he can make the terms less favorable for the people that are buying it, because obviously there's an over appetite for what he was offering into the market. So you can either do it through two ways. You can drop the coupon payment down to 0%. I might even, and when I told this to him, he kind of laughed at me, maybe even make it a negative coupon.
Oh my God.
But the fact that what everyone in the debt market was after was the convertibility piece. And so he could have maybe raised the convertibility at $600 or $700 or $800. And then he's given up less stock whenever they exercise the option to convert it into common stock. So when I look at how oversubscribed it was, my immediate thought if I'm Michael Saylor is, all right, it was too juicy of a deal for the buyer, and I could have actually positioned myself from the seller standpoint in a better way. And I think if he does it over again, you might see something like that. Where, I mean, think about it from the buyer standpoint. They're already going to convert because they're already in the money after 1 quarter on the convertibility clause in the contract. So it's crazy.
But when will MicroStrategy do the next convertible bonds? I mean, the Bitcoin is up 100%. When the next one?
I mean, at the pace we're going right now, maybe next quarter.
And the other part of this equation is that you have a lot of portfolio managers who have a mandate to buy bonds, to buy stock.
Exactly. This is big.
They can't buy Bitcoin. That it's
Wow.
not in their investment policy statements, but they can buy bonds, right? It's safe. And so I don't know if MicroStrategy bonds are rated, but in any case, that this is something that they can very easily do, and they might already be bullish on Bitcoin in their personal accounts, but in their $100 billion portfolio, they can't buy Bitcoin, and this is a way for them to do it.
There's Bitcoiners in the fixed income space. They just can't buy it with all the money that they're being provided from all their clients because of all the regulation and restrictions. But it was interesting. I forget what the number was that Michael told me, but he said something like, I had a conversation with somebody that was interested in participating in the offering, and he's like, I'm just going to take the money and I'm just going to buy Bitcoin with it. And the person asked him, his solvency, the financial health of the company. He answered the couple questions, basically the debt to equity on the company, 0. I have this much free cash flow per year, right? And the person was like, it was a 1-minute conversation. The person's like, I'll give you, I forget what the number was, but it was like $20 or $40 million. Like within a minute. They didn't have any other questions. Like, oh, okay, I'll give you 20 or 40 million. I can't remember what the number was, but it was something like that.
So it's really a supply side problem. There's not enough companies doing this. And so I'm hopeful that, Square dipped its toes was $50 million buy earlier. So that's probably worth 100 million now. But hopefully that means that they get addicted to buying Bitcoin. And once you get that first line of Bitcoin up your nose, then it's not long before you're blowing the whole bag. And I think so. It's only a matter of time for Square to jump on. And then we'll start seeing the other big tech companies.
That's a perfect segue, because I was going to ask you guys, look, what's the major, look, MicroStrategy, it's hilarious because truly they bought enough Bitcoin, I think, this past year. If you only had 8 other companies that same size, or 7 others, would it have bought up the entire annual supply, let alone Grayscale or anything else? In your mind, who's the major corporation that will make the announcement?
I like the idea of Microsoft. I really think that Satya Nadella is a guy who kind of thinks outside the box. He likes open source. They acquired GitHub, and he's sitting on a lot of cash. He's got a $2 trillion market cap.
Jesus.
He knows that all of this is overvalued, and that now Microsoft is huge, right? And so that would be the one argument against it as well. So I think there's smaller players who are going to be next, but in terms of the big FANG stocks, or at those market cap levels, I think Microsoft's going to be the first one. I don't think it's okay. Now, granted, we've got Tesla now as one of the big FANG stocks. Apparently, I don't know if this is a pump and dump or if they're going to stay up there. But I think Elon is an obvious candidate as well.
He's a fan favorite on Twitter, as you know. When you look at everything going back and forth, I could easily see him doing it. I love the fact with Saylor is, to him, his mindset is probably this is a $1 million coin. So for him at 40,000, 50,000, it's a no-brainer. Like, he'll do anything he can to buy more. I think Elon is of that same mindset, and would not be surprised to see it from Tesla.
My biggest concern with Tesla is just their free cash flow. So when you look at all these other tech companies, they're kicking off huge free cash flows. And if there's anything that I'd tell people moving forward in the next 5 years is, if you don't have free cash flows, you can't stack these things, or at least you can't stack them in any kind of meaningful way. And if you are trying to stack them, you're going to be selling them as you might buy it, but it's going to erode it, and you're going to have to sell it in order to sustain operations. So whenever I look at Tesla, I don't own it. I know a lot of people in the Bitcoin space do. I hear their arguments on why they think the capitalization rate on Tesla is where it's at and why they think it can be sustained. My biggest risk and concern for Tesla is Bitcoin. When people talk to me in the Bitcoin space about Tesla, I'm looking at it saying they're not kicking off enough free cash flows, and they haven't demonstrated that they can even make free cash flows consistently. And a thing like Bitcoin, especially if we start getting into a scenario where it looks like this thing might be starting to go all the way, that is a very bad thing for a company that's not making free cash flows. Let me tell you, this thing's going to be the grim reaper for companies that don't have free cash flows.
Preston, get ready for the hate mail from the Tesla.
And that's and I'm ready. I know that's a really unpopular opinion that people don't want to hear, but my biggest risk for Tesla is Bitcoin.
Preston, if you don't like them, you just fire up the Apache and show up at their house. They'll change their mind real quick.
Hey, if this thing, if we don't go into Bitcoin hyper Bitcoinization in this cycle, then Tesla probably has a pretty strong chance to be able to. I mean, don't get me wrong; they're going to sell more common stock to keep that thing going. There's such an appetite for people to own Tesla stock. It's crazy to me. But I think Tesla, it is very favorable for Tesla if Bitcoin takes more cycles to kind of start going into its hyperbolic type move. If it happens sooner, I have concerns as to how they're going to be able to navigate it.
Preston, thank you
for. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dana. You go. Yep. Go ahead. No, you go.
Thank you. So this is Cheeks and Chung. In case Pierre and Preston, you don't know what you got yourself into. This is Cheeks and Chung. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It may be before your guys' time, but anyway, Preston, what you're talking about there actually takes us into the next thing I want to ask you guys about, and that is escape velocity. What you think it is, what your expectations are for this bull run. Preston, I remember last year, I think around summer, you were saying, I heard you on a podcast, this time around it's different. You think we could go into hyper-Bitcoinization, and you got there before me to that mentality. So I really want to hear you guys both. And Preston, why don't we start with you? How likely you think that we're going into escape velocity? What's your definition of that, and general expectations for the bull run?
Before I go there, I want to share the hate mail with Pierre, because I think he agrees with me on the Tesla thing that I'm saying.
I'm an accountant. At the end of the day, it's about.
That's why you're so smart, Pierre.
No, right? Am I out to lunch? It's the faster that
they could. I mean, I feel like Elon's whole philosophy is it's very risk seeking, right? And that in an environment where that gets rewarded, it's the right way to go. Now, will he be able to thread the needle, right, of switching over to Bitcoin just in time, and also figuring out his unit economics on his business, or acquiring businesses with better unit economics, right? I agree. It's
because you're going from an incentive structure. You phrase that so well. You're going from an incentive structure that rewards the way he's acting, which is move as fast as you possibly can, put as much disruptive technology into the marketplace as possible. You have to front run. Don't worry about profits. You don't need to worry about any of that. Just offer more common stock, sell it, and just make sure that your top line revenue is growing. Don't worry about the bottom line at all, right? And you're transitioning into this thing that flips that incentive structure upside down. And if he doesn't thread the needle, like Pierre just said, dude, he is walking a tightrope that, in my humble opinion, he can navigate, but it's going to be a whole lot harder if we reach a hyper Bitcoinization scenario sooner rather than later. It's going to be a lot harder because let's say the cycle kicks out another 5 years from where we're at now. He now has time in order to start making free cash flows. And if he can just get to the point where he is cash flow positive, all of a sudden the whole thing, he's able to make the whole thing work. But if we transition into this new incentive structure faster, boy, he's got some real rough waters to navigate. So it's hard to say. Now, to answer your question, I don't have a good answer for it. The reason I keep talking about it, and I think the reason people keep asking me about it, is because I just want to highlight the risk of a sovereign entrant. Okay, so everyone's looking at Plan B's model.
Yeah,
they're saying, all right, this model says it's going up to 200,000, and then it's going to come back to like 80 or 100,000. I'm going to sell at 200,000, and then I'm going to buy it all back, and I'll have twice as much. And I'm a genius, and I'm looking at this model, right? But what I think people who are saying that are totally missing is the risk of a sovereign entrant stepping in and just printing a bunch of fiat and just stepping into the market, and they just keep buying the Bitcoin that's being sold. You got to think about that risk. And then they're also going to just magically lose their calculators and not be able to do a compound annual growth rate to where it's going 4 years later, which is $1 million according to the model. So I think it's a huge risk. It's an upside risk of potentially getting out of the market. And the only thing I want to do is just highlight to people so that if that's the decision they're going to make, which I'm not telling you is right or wrong, I just think that they need to go into that decision with eyes wide open, because I think it could absolutely play out that way. Could it just follow the stock to flow model and all this hyper Bitcoinization happens on the next? Absolutely.
So I'll jump in on this one because that's a great segue to an old bet we have started here on the Toxic Happy Hour.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, man. Steak dinner. A few of us, Greg Zaj, I know you're in the audience there, myself, have a bet with Anders about this next run, about the pullback or retracement that we may see. Because initially he thought 50% or 40%. I'm one of those guys that the stock to flow model by Plan B, I think is brilliant in the sense of, man, what conversation it generates in the community. It is fantastic. Right now, it's still on par. If you would have talked to people in March thinking it's going to be broken, guess what? We're here, baby. It's still going. Yeah, this one to me is, this isn't when I started in 2017. This isn't just, some guy comes off the street and buys a little Bitcoin. This is people putting it by the billions on their balance sheet. The game theory is absolutely playing out. And yeah, we talk about the corporations, but you're right. If the sovereign nation has nothing to lose, aside from being threatened perhaps by, I don't know, other countries like us, we'll see, to go all in. And there's going to be countries that are just going to say, oh, hell with it, and go all in. And it's going to be fantastic to watch it play out, because as of now, to me, this is the bull run that we hit escape velocity for sure.
Yeah, it's Pierre, what do you think?
So I have thought that we were going to hit escape velocity in past cycles. So I'm, the boy who cried wolf, and now I want to be more conservative, but that's when it is going to happen, right? So that's the problem.
I love how you walk that tightrope.
Reflexivity.
Here's my piece that I brought up on a couple different shows. Is back in 2017, I did not think this was going like all the way back then. And Pierre can vouch for some of the private messages that I sent him behind the scenes. I mean, I'll tell you, I sold the top of the 2017. If people don't want to believe it, Pierre can definitely vouch for me because I sent him the message.
Confirmed. And I thought you were crazy, but you were.
So So you've lost half your money already. You could have doubled that.
I don't think Pierre talked to me for an entire year after I sent him the message.
You ruined escape velocity in 2017 when you market sold your Bitcoin, Preston. You broke their bull run.
So here's the reason why. Back then, you didn't have any type of structural concerns like you have now. Sure, like what was happening was just the QE and everything else was a disaster, but you didn't have rioting. Right, you didn't have the calls, the screams for UBI on both parties like you have. So like now, I'm of a completely different opinion on how to kind of approach this bull run, which it is because of the backdrop. It's not necessarily so you got the protocol, it's doing its thing. I mean, it's completely systematic. It's going to keep doing that into perpetuity. The thing that's different this time is the backdrop and the fixed income market, the way that the fiscal spending, I mean, it is just off the charts, 10 times, 100 times worse than what we had during the 2017 bull run. And so what we're really talking about when we talk about hyper Bitcoinization is you're talking about a breakdown in trust, which is a qualitative word. And we're talking about a very quantitative protocol that's executing fiat dollars. So at what point does that qualitative trust collectively around the world break down? I don't know. But whenever you have all these things happening in the backdrop and you have the price of Bitcoin shooting to the moon, I think that your probabilities start going up in a tremendous way.
You know, when I'm looking back on this year, and I say Sailor, I wouldn't say saved the day, but he saved the day in a sense of he showed what the true value of Bitcoin is to me, which is the scarcity and store value. It finally made the mainstream. They still will pretend it doesn't. It's going to take large corporations to get it. Eventually they will at a loss. But man, aside from Pizza Day or anything else, he nailed this year. The pandemic helped push him that direction. So that's the only good thing that came out of COVID-19.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm responding to somebody here in the chat talking about the Tesla. We'll just talk about it right here. So the Tesla, he pushed back. He said the last 5 quarters they've been free cash flow positive. This is obviously valid when you look at the TTM on it. It's 1.96 billion. Hold on, I lost the screen. Oh my god.
No, I say it. Yeah, you said yes. I agree. TTM FCF for Tesla, 1.96 billion. Yeah.
I lost our video.
Oh, that's okay.
I got way too much. I got way too much stuff open up here on my. Okay, here we go. I found it. And so this is a very valid point, and I think that it's a very positive point for the argument that Tesla might be able to start stacking this on their balance sheets. I have concerns about whether that is a sustainable free cash flow. Typically, when I'm looking at sustainable free cash flows, I'm looking at like what has the company done over the last 5 years and what's that trend look like? Is it stable? Is it super volatile? So maybe they're pumping out numbers that look like they're going to actually start coming out from being underwater and start going positive from here, which would be very positive for anybody holding Tesla, especially if Elon starts stacking Bitcoin on his balance sheet. That'll be a really positive sign for Tesla stock. So,
and it's the top of the hour. I got to go. This was awesome. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the after party.
Pierre, thanks for letting me crash the party, man.
Yeah, sure thing. This was awesome.
Cheers. Hey, thanks, Pierre.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for letting Preston join. It's been amazing to hear you guys talk. Thank you so much, Pierre, for coming on.
Have a good
do
one.
it again. All right.
Hey, I can hang around for another 20 minutes if you guys want.
Yeah, no, we'll take like
here,
1 hour, 20 minutes, Preston. You can hang on for an hour, 20 minutes. All right. It's all right.
Any other questions?
Yeah, here's the thing here's the thing with Elon though, is that dude takes chances, like you say. And if Sailor's in his ear, Breedlove's in his ear, all these people, and he absolutely sees, you know what, stock to flow could work. What the guy takes chances. I would not be surprised to see him just throw, I don't know, a few million, $500 million in there. Why not?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds. If you don't see any action in the next 2 months, well, and I don't know how much voting control, and I don't know the composition of his board and like what those people, you know, how receptive they would be to something like that. All those kind of things are really the factors to kind of look at if you're going to try to, you know, predict whether he's going to put that on his balance sheet or not. And I don't have a good beat on any of that kind of stuff.
So a question for you on that is, and that's the nice thing. And yeah, shout out to the real Tahinis, Ali, the small companies that go into Bitcoin. When you have a CFO at a company that can go in to a board and say, our cash reserves that lost this much money last year, this gentleman just basically doubled it. Instead of cash, you just put Bitcoin, and doubled it in 4 months, whatever it was. I mean, if they say no, then there's no helping them. There's absolutely no helping them.
Well, the issue you get into is they have to understand all the nuances of the Bitcoin protocol. And I'll tell you, I've talked to some I would classify as extremely intelligent people. In fact, some very close friends in finance that look at this. And I mean, I've sent them a lot of things to read, and their opinion is that this is a total Ponzi scheme, even after reading all those things.
Wow.
In fact, I would even tell you, my opinion is Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger still look at this thing as being a total Ponzi scheme. And I'm sure that, and to be honest with you, those guys read like maniacs. And if you think they haven't read up on this, I think you're totally fooling yourselves.
Absolutely.
So if you got really, and I mean, you can't get smarter minds in finance than some of these people that we're talking about. And if they're reading it and they're saying, I still think this is a Ponzi scheme, because they don't understand the engineering, they don't understand those types of things, you're going to have a hard time with any kind of board, especially if you don't have a majority voting rights like Michael had.
Well, that's what's amazing is trying to find that disconnect, because you'll see an article that's been kicked around. You get a 20% drop on Monday, and I had put out a meme about this. A 20% drop on Monday after you've had a year of a 300% gain, or you start from zero and you're at $40,000, and now you have mainstream media that is just it's a bear market. A one-day drop that's already been corrected.
It's a justification for the position that they have, which is nothing.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. Everyone wants to cling to the narrative that supports their decision making, so that they don't feel bad about the decision making. And unfortunately, when you have a 25% drawdown in a day, everyone who doesn't have a position wants to cling to that and say, "See, this is risky. This is meanwhile, you're up 20% for the year. 15 days into the year, and you're up 20%, right?
That is risky.
Yeah, I mean, 20% in a year on an annualized basis is you're one of the best investors on the planet, and you've already done that in the first 15 days of the year. So, I mean,
which we are.
Yeah. So I don't know how you get over some of these hurdles. I think the thing that ultimately gets you over it in the long run is the price action becomes so obscene that you can't unsee it. It goes to the 1920s Germany chart. You know, but by 1923, there was no disputing that the paper currency, the paper mark, was becoming absolutely worthless. And so it's going to take some type of movement. And when I don't know what price point that happens at. Is it 100,000? Is it 400,000? I don't know, but there's going to be a point where the trust is saying, okay, clearly these people aren't nuts, and maybe I'm the one who's totally missing the boat.
Yeah. So how many years does it take? We're 12 years in. 12 years in, it just continues to grow organically. That's the beautiful thing about it. It grows organically throughout the world. Yeah, everyone runs their node. It's beautiful.
This is the other thing so I was talking to a friend yesterday, made tons of money in finance on Wall Street, personal friend, and we were talking about Bitcoin. And 2 points that really stood out for me was this discussion around nobody controlling it. Like, I think a lot of people in traditional finance that have been doing this for 3 decades, they're looking at this and saying, how can I trust something that no one person or no group of people are controlling? How can I trust that that's going to continue to work into the future? And it's because your entire life, everybody who's alive today is used to a model that's not how things work. It works the exact opposite. That's a challenging thing to come to grips with. The other thing that I think so few get, that just take a look at the space from a glance and don't get, is the power of a full node operator. They don't understand that that's the corporate governance structure of Bitcoin, is running a full node, and that you got, call it anywhere from, and you hear all sorts of numbers on how many full node operators there are. The one that I buy into is around 190 to 100,000 full node operators on the planet, all geographically decentralized, and every one of them have a vote. And if another 100,000 want to fire up a full node, they can do it because it's cost effective. So when you think about the power of each one of those full node operators having a vote on which version of the protocol they want to run, I think if you talk to 100 people, I'd be surprised if you could even find one or two that understand that piece of Bitcoin and how powerful that is for running or for having a corporate governance structure of an incentive structure that can't be unwound. And so when I explained that to my friend, he was like, wow, I've never heard of such a thing. I didn't realize that that's how it works. And I said, yeah, back in 2017, the miners tried to fork the protocol in a way that was advantageous to them. And guess what? They totally lost. Nobody adopted that code base, and the full node operators won. It was a total victory for Bitcoin. But so few people understand any of that history. They don't understand the technical aspects. They don't even know what a full node means. And so, I see that piece of Bitcoin being so incredibly powerful. Yeah. And this is my issue with Ethereum. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone gets mad at me because the prices of Ethereum keeps going up.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're looking at me and saying, you're missing out on this opportunity in this other coin. And it keeps going up just like Bitcoin's going up. But as far as I'm concerned, if you would remove the proof of work and the 4-year halving cycle out of Bitcoin, all of a sudden Ethereum doesn't go up anymore. I think those two aspects in Bitcoin are actually feeding, because you got people that are looking at it from an investment standpoint and they're saying, well, I don't really understand all this stuff, so I'm going to buy an 80% position in Bitcoin, at 20% in Ethereum. I'll buy a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and spread the portfolio position there. And if I'm wrong, well, then I'll catch it up in this other coin. And so like that's how they're managing their risk for not being able to understand the technical aspects of everything that's happening. But if you actually spend some time and do the hardcore research on this, you quickly realize that there's no corporate governance, decentralized corporate governance for Ethereum. There just isn't, right? No matter how much you want to tell me there is, I'm going to continue to laugh in your face because it's just false, right? So how in the world, what's their corporate governance going to look like in 10 years from now? Better yet, let's go 20 years from now. Who can run a full node in 20 years from now with that freaking rat's nest of a protocol? You can't, right?
You know what's great is we're gonna have to have both you guys back on again, because we never even got to the Ethereum part with Pierre. Because he brought it up. 70% pre-mined. No one has any clue what's out there. But
it's laughable. It's just laughable.
And
if anyone wants to get into a technical discussion, I'm happy to go there, because it's not too hard to understand why Satoshi in the white paper dedicated an entire paragraph to this idea of keeping the blocks as small as possible so that you have a corporate governance. I say corporate. You have a governance structure that gives the people the right to vote at the smallest plebe. And notice how I said it.
I love it. Fucking please, baby. Yeah.
At the plebe level. The plebes vote. It's not it's the plebes vote in Bitcoin. And I mean, you talk about just a beautiful structure that gives the power to the people globally. That's it.
Preston, I want to drill down. I want to go back to the escape velocity thing, because you've been saying that, at least as far as I know, since last summer. And I mean, what makes you think that we won't? This is my favorite topic, really, is the anatomy of the bull run. And if
I can interject 1 second, Marty Zal was offended, and apparently he just unfollowed Preston for saying plebe instead of pleb. Get ready for he's going to go back, and he lost like 1,000 followers by saying plebe.
I didn't get called a plebe for an entire year of my life, standing on the wall at attention to just change the way it's pronounced.
No,
absolutely, man.
You paid the price to
be able to say the word plebe.
Yeah. And me, I'm here. My co-host is Pubby, and he's probably the only guy alive today that read all the books in the Library of Alexandria before they burned down. So when Pubby says plebe, I say plebe.
Preston,
all right. I don't know if ever saw, like, I want to get back to that escape velocity, so don't get me wrong, but did you ever see the meme that Pubby made where he called you the Pishinator, where it was Arnold Schwarzenegger? Do you know
I
that?
did not see this. No.
I'll send it out to you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Pubby, he did a face swap on Arnold Schwarzenegger when he takes on the sunglasses. That was the face swap with you, so it looks like you. And you were
Definitor.
So on that note, back to the escape velocity.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's different this time around? Why will there not be enough of the OG hodlers that are financially independent, not like 3 times, they're financially independent like 30 times? Why will that, like, let's say they sell 5 of those financial independents in order to secure their family and their offspring for generations? Why will that supply not overman demand in this cycle?
The thing I would really watch for in this cycle is who is putting it on their balance sheet. The corporate buying on this is going to be a really big marketing narrative that could potentially make the trust erode. So let me give you an example. Let's say Apple, Amazon, Google, all of them are putting this on their balance sheet. Every quarter, let's just say that the position size is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine from a CNBC talking point and everywhere else in the world, like, how that goes away, or just like, if you had to put a price on the marketing that brings into the space,
yeah,
dude, I couldn't even imagine what the numbers. You're literally talking billions and billions of dollars in marketing.
So as we're looking into this,
Pubby, Preston is not. Please let him speak. Thank you.
Oh, I thought he was finished. Please go ahead.
He's probably going to say he was because he's being nice to you. What, Preston? Did you have more on that note? And I will give the word to you afterwards, Pubby.
That's okay.
So that would just be one point. And then when they start talking about, well, why are they doing this? Because that's going to be the big discussion point. It's not going to just be that they're putting it on there. It's going to be, why are you doing this? Hey, interview with Tim Cook. Why did you put 10% of your balance sheet or what you used to have in marketable securities in the Bitcoin? And he's going to say, well, it's a technology. It's something that protects us against the debasement that's happening all around the world with currencies. And right then and there, like, if you're a small cap or mid cap company and you're hearing this Goliath of a titan of business saying these things, you're going to start to go do some research. I don't care who you are. And so if that's what's kind of playing out in 2021, and those are the discussions that are happening in the news, who knows, man? I mean, I think your probability, your odds of this going into a scenario that who knows where it ends, it becomes much more real at that point. Now, if you don't have those conversations happening, you don't have these types of companies doing those types of things, well, then maybe it takes another 5 years for it all to play out, which, it don't matter for me at this point, man. Whatever.
Yep. I'm laughing because it goes from, I mean, let's be honest, 12 years ago, worth not even a penny. You get something that goes from zero to almost $40,000 in 12 years. Only based is just a ledger based on trust and running nodes has $40,000 of value, and people still question it. At this point, Satoshi was right. I got no time to talk to you. I got no time for you. It's over. It's already done.
I think something that's really exciting, and I've talked a little bit about it in my feed, is the debit card and credit card rewards. This is, I think this is, I saw a number. I think it's a $200 billion or $400 billion kind of market for these rewards programs. I think Bitcoin is just going to absolutely eat the entire rewards programs in the coming 3 years. You're going to see this be, people are going to, and you saw some of the numbers that Fold was posting. People are like, I just looked at like what I did this past month, and like I had 8% rewards using this program, right? And it's because the price over the last 30 days has gone up that much that you quickly start to see, like, if I'm not using a debit or credit card for all these transactions that I just naturally have in a 30-day period, when you start doing the math on this and you look at where this is probably potentially going, you're pretty much going to get all that money back for free after probably like 2 years. All your transactions.
Yeah, I mean, the return rate is paying for what they're buying.
Exactly.
They're getting something for free. It's gorgeous.
So I mean, if you're not trying to get a Bitcoin rewards card right now, you're out of your mind.
Absolutely. Anders, over to you.
Don't give me the word when I'm I wouldn't say unprepared, but I'm just listening into the conversation.
I'll jump back in, with Preston. So one thing, we're back in here now. Price prediction, man. Our fans are here for only one reason: good guess and price prediction. What do you think? End of 2021, where are we standing,
end of 2021,
baby?
Okay, so I mean, I'm just going to be a very conservative price target. I think that Plan B stock to flow model is gold. I seriously think that it's a very good tool. I think if we were going to see a high, it's probably going to be what Plan B has, which is 288K, somewhere in the 200 to 300K range of a high. If it goes back into a contraction, I think the price will stabilize at around 100K. You might see it get down to 60 to 80K in a correction. And that would be in the 2022 timeframe. And then it's going to be off to the races after you get into the, I think of it in terms of 70,000 block increments. So we're 35,000 blocks after the halving. So in my opinion, we got another 35,000 blocks before we're going to see this peak, assuming that we go through another cycle. The 70,000 blocks that would follow the 70,000 that I'm talking about right now. So this would be, what would it be? 105,000 blocks from where we are today is where you'd probably see the low if we're going through another cycle. I don't know if we're going to go through another cycle. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. People better think long and hard if they think they're going to sell the top and rebuy the bottom without accounting for a sovereign risk, upside risk entrant that comes in and just continues to bid the price because they're trying to stack as much of this stuff as possible. So I don't know. I still keep my odds at 50-50 whether we have hyper Bitcoinization on this cycle or the next cycle. I really don't know, but it's somewhere in between those. Yeah,
it's between 50 and 50. I like that, Preston. You're mind-blowing me here on the math. I just want to give a shout out to Greg Sash, which is on a note on what you said, Preston, which is the fact that we now have knowledge of stock to flow. And I totally agree. I absolutely believe that it makes a lot of sense that the flow and the size of that compared to what is now outstanding and experiencing the word of mouth from hodlers to other hodlers that are believers is influential. And he said yesterday, I had a conversation with him that just the knowledge of the stock to flow now, which we did not have in 17 in that bull run. Now when people are seeing that, hey, all right, that model which said 288 is working out, so we can start to front run it, which institutional investors or professional investors couldn't do it last time because we didn't have this model. And that is to my point, that saying, okay, if people now starting to pay attention to this model that is predicting 2 million and 10 million and 20 and infinity, that in itself is a very bullish thing. That means that there'll probably be a little bit more buying now. And also, I think that, go ahead.
So the challenge with this is as the price continues to run, you get more and more miners that are stepping into the market. And over that 4-year cycle, as more and more miners step in there, the margin capture gets harder and harder and harder as you get later in that 4-year cycle, which means they have to sell the coins that they're actually mining into the market at a higher rate because there's so much more competition. It'd be almost like in gold mining. The price is exploding to the upside. They're going in there. They're trying to capture all that margin that they're able to get because the price is so much higher than their expenses. But as that price as the price goes up there and it kind of hesitates and slows down, more and more gold miners are setting up, because it's really easy to do it with Bitcoin. It's not easy to do in the real physical gold market, but let's imagine that it is.
Yeah.
They're stepping in. They're trying to all capture that margin. And so that's what really puts a drag on it if you don't have this constant influx of demand. So this is what I would tell you is the thing to really pay attention to. 35,000 blocks from now.
Yep.
We're in the fall timeframe. Okay. If what you're hearing on CNBC is the talking head of BlackRock or Goldman Sachs on the show, and they're saying, hey, listen, this thing has a stock to flow model. It's getting more scarce by the minute. We think that the long-term price projection 4 years from now is $1 million, and therefore we're going to continue to buy it, even though that these prices are really high. And they're actually talking in those types of terms, because let me tell you what it sounded like in 2017's bull market. The conversation was, this doesn't make any sense. And the talking, the smart talking heads from the finance realm were on CNBC saying, this is probably a bubble. Give it a year and it's probably going to be down 60%, and these people are all going to lose their money. That's the delta that I would be looking for in the fall. If you're hearing one versus the other, that'll probably be a very key insight for maybe where it's going.
I got to jump in on this one real quick about the delta you're looking for. Dear God. And I made this a meme, and I know you saw it, Preston. Was it Melissa Lynn talking to Saylor and giving him I'm sorry, are you a software company or Bitcoin company? And just so clueless about just absolutely missing the entire point. So I had to do a meme. So what are your thoughts on absolutely, I guess that.
So
I would sort of view.
Yeah. I would describe it this way. So many people that are in the financial media space are, I don't know if bias is the right word, but they're influenced by professional investors. Here's what you got to know about a professional investor. It's not their money. Yeah. They look at things they have a completely different incentive structure than a person who is the CEO and founder of a business that's been adding value into the marketplace for 30 years. Okay. Yeah. Completely different incentive structure, completely different way of looking at things. The money manager who's not creating this value, they're receiving the value that was created and retained from the marketplace, and then they're trying to invest it in non-operational securities to hopefully make more money for their clients. What their incentive structure is don't lose the clients, right? Because if I get $100 million for the year, or I get $1 billion for the year, and I get a 20% kicker for any gain that I capture, the real interest is I can't afford to lose this client. I can't afford to lose the $1 billion base of money that I'm playing with. Okay. Right. So what it really comes down to for them, what they're really incentivized by, is to not have a lot of volatility in the portfolio. That's the thing that they're really focused on, because volatility to the customer is scary, and it's a form of this person doesn't know what they're doing. Okay. So that's why they always want to talk about Sharpe ratios, which is how much money did I make relative to the volatility that was sitting in my portfolio. The volatility is a really, really important piece for a money manager. When you go into the Michael Saylor universe, and he's banking money, so he makes $30 million a year. Okay. Once he makes that $30 million, he doesn't necessarily need it to make another $30 million the next year. And if he takes that $30 million that he made last year and he puts it on his balance sheet and it's super volatile, guess what? No one really cares, because based on the way that people value equity on the stock market, they're looking at the profit and loss. They're looking at the income statement. They're looking at the bottom line earnings that the company's producing, and then they're capitalizing those earnings. Now, his company is starting to be capitalized a little bit differently because he's got so much Bitcoin. But traditionally, the thing that investors are really looking at is what's the bottom line net income that's coming off the income statement, and let me put a multiple of 25 or 30 based on today's capitalization rates. Let's use those numbers to value the company. So what you had in that interview was a Michael Saylor who's looking at it from that lens, right? And you had Melissa, what's her last name?
Was it Lee? Maybe
Melissa
I don't know.
Lee. Melissa Lee,
perhaps.
who it appears comes from a money manager background or has been influenced by the volatility. Keep your clients, keep your limited partners, and I'm the GP trying to take my 20% annually, right? Mindset. And what you found was somebody who was asking hilarious questions that didn't understand what in the world he's actually doing.
And even better was she asked a question, he would answer, and she wouldn't believe him.
Yes, because she just couldn't wrap her head around it.
Yeah, I'm a company. We still have a business. I just happen to take everything from my cash side and put it into Bitcoin, and I'm outperforming my own company. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I typically say, hey, it's a person that has an employee mindset, not an owner mindset. But in this situation, I would say it's a person who has a Wall Street, I manage somebody else's money mindset versus somebody who's a founder and thinks like an owner.
Yeah. Preston, Piscinator, I just want to let you know that you have now been dubbed the Chopper Chat. So due to your background in the military, flying them angry birds.
Yeah.
So you know what? So when you were talking about before that, it's a 50-50 whether we go hyper Bitcoinization or whether we'll have another cycle. I almost start to think that I want that this is prolonged, because being part of this revolution and being on the front line with, brilliant people like you guys, Pubby, other like great people in the chat that we hang out with on Twitter. It's such a joy. And, once this is over, there are no more Bitcoiners, because everyone are Bitcoiners. So we don't have this fun fight revolution of disrupting money of the world. So I mean, either way, look, if we're at infinity 2 years from now, or it's 5-6 years from now, it's either way has upsides, I would say.
Well, I would say this, from a social unrest standpoint, I actually kind of think a slower hyper Bitcoinization might be better. And I don't know how I could really justify that, because at the end of the day, long term, Bitcoin is very good for society, in my humble opinion. So you would think that the faster you get there, the more you can rip the Band-Aid off and get there. But I just don't. This is such a hard one to be able to say which one is better, which one's not. But yeah, if it happens quick, my concern is that there's going to be so much impairment in the fixed income side that it's going to be an extremely painful event for a lot of people. And I think that what might happen is you just have so much unemployment and things like that it could actually be really disruptive. And if there's anything we've learned throughout history, is when you have that disruptive change, it offers a power vacuum that allows extreme type leadership to step into place. And because the population doesn't necessarily understand the why behind what's happening. And so what they do is they cling to one extreme or the other. And that's my kind of concern for a hyper Bitcoinization that happens too quickly. If it happens a little bit more slowly and methodically throughout time and systematically throughout time, maybe it allows for the social unrest to be better managed. But if somebody came to me with a different argument, I'd probably say, yeah, you might be right about that too. So those are some of my generic thoughts on it.
I absolutely agree. I think, like you say, how does this play out? How does hyper Bitcoinization play out? And what was interesting until this year, hyper Bitcoinization to me was, I thought, well defined within the community. Hyper Bitcoinization was, hey, guess what? You guys, we can do peer-to-peer transfer of value. And then I finally found out, you know what hyper Bitcoinization could be? I can store my value and time and wealth into Bitcoin. So that absolutely changed for me moving forward. So it's going to be fascinating. I think the great thing with Bitcoin to me is the best people in this space. The best people are owning Bitcoin right now. It's the people that are visionaries, that people that love humanity. Those are the ones that got it early. They got it and they get it. And that's to me is our safe. It's not only that Bitcoin is fantastic, it's that the best people in the world have it.
There's a reason I block a lot of people. And
here we go. Yep. Go ahead,
to
man.
be honest with you, the reason I block people is if I think that they have a bad core or they're just kind of like somebody that I don't want to have a lot of influence in this new world we're moving into, I block them because I don't want them to see my feed.
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, I know that sounds egotistical or whatever, but at the end of the day, I don't want to see their comments, and more importantly, I don't want them to necessarily understand what's about to play out because I don't want them to have influence.
I like that. So you don't want these bad people to actually end up understanding Bitcoin before the good people. I love that. I just want to say, Preston, I absolutely. So I love your podcast. I know Pubby does as well. We are both big fanboys of yours and your show. And especially after you started making Bitcoin specific episodes, I absolutely love it. And we don't have your link yet in the show notes. We're gonna put it because we know you were coming. And I was frantically preparing when I found out like 50 minutes before the show. But it's so great to have you on. But so on the note of in what you said before about, if it happens too soon, it could get really uncomfortable for a lot of people. I agree, but and someone said this, I didn't come up with that, because we already have the alternative ready, because Bitcoin as a better money already is ready. As soon as people hit unemployment from this disruption, they'll be able to get paid in whatever they do in Bitcoin. Then I remember, the person talking about this saying that we may not have to go through like a 30s 30s style Great Depression, but because the alternative is ready, we can move to Bitcoin straight away, and the world starts rolling on a good standard that is good for humanity. It's good for savers. It will help people get financially independent. And we had the pleasure also of Jeff Booth. If you have any, you gotta show it, Preston. But him talking about how everything, once they're allowed to get cheaper through deflation, how we'll end up with actually not having like 0.1% of the population financially independent, but this could be many percent of people actually living a good, comfortable life where you don't need to both people in the household be slaving away for fiat currency.
Anders, let our guest talk, please. Thank you.
No, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I think that's really important what you're saying. It's a lot of people that I talk to about it, it's very inconvenient to have this conversation about this transition, mostly because they don't have a position in this. And if we're right, it just becomes extremely difficult for them to buy that. It's like, wow, if what you're saying is true, well then I'm totally screwed. Is what you're saying. You're saying I'm screwed. And it becomes this personal, like emotional event. So a lot of people don't want to hear it because it's super inconvenient. It's very difficult to understand the protocol. It's very difficult to understand all the incentive structures. It's difficult to wrap your head around something that isn't managed by anybody becoming the new thing that will be trusted. It's going to be a tough transition to think about how exactly it's going to play out. Like what's going to happen to the value of my house? Well, what will be it worth? Like, I think a lot of these things are really hard to forecast exactly what it's going to look like, because you're stepping into the polar opposite incentive structure that exists today through inflationary monetary policy. So it's going to be hard. It's going to understand and to fully be able to predict, project. But some of it I think is highly predictive. Like the debt, right? Like if you're somebody who's issuing debt, like Michael did, and you're employing it into this new currency, that's going to be one heck of a trade, or a heck of a position, or way to navigate it. But at the same time, you got to make sure that you have enough free cash flows in order to pay back the coupon or the interest on what you're doing. These things, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger say that sometimes you can get yourself in a whole lot more trouble by being extra smart about something, or being so creative about the way you go about doing something that you that you just basically fall down on your face because you were so smart about it. And I totally jacked the quote. I can't remember how the quote goes, but it's something like that. And so I would challenge people to not overthink this. You don't need a lot to drastically increase your buying power in the future. So don't be so greedy to think that you have to put every stinking thing on it to not just hit it out of the ballpark, but literally crush it over the top of the stadium and into the water river that's flowing behind the stadium. Like, you don't need to do that to, like, put yourself in such an advantageous position into the future. Like, if you hit it over the fence, you're getting a home run. You're increasing your buying power in the future tremendously. You don't have to rip it out of the ballpark.
So, question for you.
Hey,
I got this one because, listen, we have Andy Estrom. I think he's a friend of yours. Ready to come up. Damn. Hey, man, do you want to come on with him as well? Because I don't want to let him have his own show if Pierre can't get his own show. You should be there too.
So I'm getting a lot of requests to come on shows, and I'm deeply humbled and honored by it. My concern is I feel like I say the same thing on a lot of shows. So I'm trying
to minimize. So do we, man. So do we.
And then I'm trying to do my own podcast and have new fresh ideas and comments. Yeah. So shoot me a note. I'll see how many I've got going on the week.
I joke, but you gotta admit, but Andy was one of the first that called out the speculative attack shot, or for what Michael Saylor was going to do.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be cool to have not only him. Well, it's up to him if he wants you to. Come on.
Not only would it be cool, but looking at Bitcoin 2021 and the importance of Bitcoin in 2021, I just think it has to happen because Andy called it. Preston, you understood it. You helped spread that word.
Yep.
And the conversation between the two of you, look, it's important.
Let me know when you guys are doing it, and if I'm available, I'll come. I've really enjoyed this chat with you guys. So, let me know, and if I have nothing going on, we'll make it happen.
Look, let me make one thing clear. This is the greatest chat in Bitcoin right now.
Yeah, Preston, I don't know if you're aware, but we don't claim we have the best host. We claim we have the best chat in the Bitcoin space.
Oh, no, I will confirm. This chat is the funniest chat I have ever seen on any podcast I've ever done. Hands down, the best chat I've ever seen.
If you need any memes done, half those people down there, just send it out to them. They'll get it done for you.
This whole time, I've been much more focused on the chat than what I'm saying.
Obviously. Yes.
That has not been clear for us. I would say either you know what you're saying so much a backbone that it comes out like you're fully focused. But let me tell you why, Preston. So these memers, like, honestly, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to say that because I want to put Toxic Happy up there because I'm not a memer, but Pubby and some of those guys in the chat, and I don't want to mention a lot of names because maybe I missed some, but the best memers on Bitcoin Twitter right now are the people hanging out in Toxic Happy Hour chat, and their level of geniusness and humor is what is making it such
unmatched.
A pull for us.
It's unmatched. If I had to measure this chat, because they wanted me in the chat to say the word measure, so I just said it 2 times right there.
So I remember I've read a great quote. It was regarding the United States or America was actually argued into existence. It was done by the people that first had the means to write things. It was argued into existence and it's a great concept, right? Freedom, liberty, everything else. I'll say Bitcoin will be the first freedom to be memed into existence.
Yeah. You know what the thing with it is you can say there's so much more context in a picture than there
Thank
is
you.
in the words, right? So like
Nailed it.
one of my favorite memes is this one of Charlie Murphy, and he's like listening, and then he just dies laughing, right? I love that meme because when somebody says something stupid and it's just the comment is just downright terrible, right? Yep. I just post that meme of him just like listening and just like dying laughing, like, you're a total idiot, right? Like, you can't say that in text form, but when you see the short clip of him laughing like that, there's just it's the equivalent of 1,000 or 10,000 words in a 5-second clip.
Listen, a simple picture with only more imagery, few letters or words. It's a failed attempt. I love it. I read once you have an author that's going to write a novel. Yeah. The best part is a novelist is someone that can't write. He can't meme. It's when you get him down to the level of when he can use like 5 words and a picture to expand upon what he wants to say.
Yeah.
That you're a memer.
And at the end of the day, if you get into an argument with somebody, if you just instead just laugh at them and say nothing, it is 1,000 times more powerful than trying to argue with them or prove your point. I mean, it's just, if you say something to somebody and they just turn around and like, okay, right? And they just walk out, like, you just made that person's mind explode. They literally want to kill everybody in the room because they just can't handle how stupid they feel.
You can actually that's the best part about being in Bitcoin right now. You just push this past year behind them. You just 300% return. Okay, have fun being poor. Another great meme, by the way.
Yeah,
thank you, Udi.
Fun being poor, Preston. That was a question in the chat. How do you like to have fun staying poor meme? What's your thoughts?
I don't use that one. Mostly because everyone's just so dang emotional about it. So I just kind of, whatever. Whenever I see it, I kind of laugh at some of the ones that I see, especially when people are, putting the letters and there's like 20 people deep spelling it out. I'm thinking, oh my God, if I'm the person on the receiving end of that, I have to feel like the biggest moron on the planet. But,
Oh, okay. So, I just want to say, and that's a word of warning from Greg. And they will prove, these amazing memers we have in the chat, including Pubby here on screen, they will prove to you that they can meme. So the next 48 hours, you better clear your schedule. You will have so many Charlie Murphy's notifications on Twitter. You have just influenced Twitter culture the next two days. Just head up, word of warning.
I love it. I love this community, and I thank you guys for bringing me on. This was a lot of fun.
Listen, the best part about have fun staying poor to me was for everyone that started late, because in the chat they know I like to remind everyone I started late in 2017. What's brilliant about it is have fun staying poor is a mindset. It's not we don't care about it. It's that people were hating on Bitcoin for so many years. You get 12 years of just hate and whatever. Guess what? We're done. We're done with listening to you, and here we are now.
I totally agree with this. Because I'll tell you, having been on Twitter talking about this particular topic for years, it gets to a point where you get really frustrated, pointing them to the same resource, having the same arguments, and you're just at the point where you're just like, you know what? Hey, man. Go out there, do whatever. I don't care what you do. Your argument sucks so bad it doesn't even deserve a response from me. Is kind of where people are at with it, and so I get it, and it makes sense.
Preston, I want to keep you here forever, but on the other hand, like, you have been trying to hint that you should have been gone half an hour ago, and
I need to get going.
And I want to keep the opportunity for having you back on. Like, you didn't think it was like being in Preston. So as Greg is saying, have fun seeing Charlie, because you're going to see a lot of Charlie. I want to thank you so much. Look, both me and Pubby and the guys in the chat. We totally appreciate your mind-blowing take on macroeconomics and Bitcoin, and we really enjoy what you do and the content. So thank you so much for actually gate crashing here today. It's been an absolute blast to have you on, man. We love
fun,
your work.
This was awesome, and I had a blast talking with you, and I love the chat. The chat is outrageous.
Yeah, sorry about my broken closet behind me. I'll fix that for next time. welcome to the show, as we say. Welcome to the show. No, honestly, man. No, your views have really inspired a lot of the people that we hang out with on Twitter. So keep up your great content. Honestly,
thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Preston, I would love for you to, plug whatever you want to plug. Definitely, I tell people, look, you have to sign up and listen to your podcast. I think that is amazing. But please give us your final words, plugs, whatever you like. And then Pubby and I will probably do an after party because we're pretty psyched. We need to decipher all the amazing, beautiful content, thoughts that you guys shared. But please take it away, Preston.
Yeah, so we're very active on Twitter. I've got a podcast. The name of the podcast is We Study Billionaires. The Bitcoin show comes out every Wednesday. For people that are coming into this or maybe listening to this conversation for the first time and they want to buy Bitcoin, I would tell you it's equivalent to trying to jump on a rocket that's flying by right now. There's nothing that's going to be comfortable about it when you look at the volatility. Beautiful. And so what I would tell you is just, especially over the next 35,000 blocks, if you're trying to take a position, step into it slowly. You don't have to go about it quickly. Dollar cost average. Let's say you got 10,000 or 5,000 you want to throw at this thing. I would just divide it up into like weekly insertions and try to spread it out over the next couple months so that you can capture all the volatility. And I think that it's going to be much more comfortable. It's definitely not investing advice. It's just to help people who are listening to this saying, I want to get in, but I'm scared to death to jump on this rocket. How do you jump on the rocket? That's what I found works for a lot of people, and enjoy and have fun with it. And most importantly, educate yourself and try to read as much as possible, because I find the only way you can have any type of conviction in any trade you do, whether it's Bitcoin, a stock, or whatever, you have to understand what it is that you're buying and why you're buying it and what the purpose that it's trying to solve. If you can do those things, you're going to have much more conviction. The volatility won't scare you because you understand what it's trying to achieve and what it's trying to do. And so those are some of my tips for new entrants and people that are looking at this for the first time that actually have an interest in taking a position. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Preston. And while you're still here, I just want to say, and we will continue, but I just want to say, guys, be careful to store more value in fiat currency that you're willing to lose, because it's a built-in policy. They are going to wipe out your savings. So be really careful with fiat currency. It is really, really dangerous, in my opinion. And Bitcoin is the lifeboat in this massive flooding of dirty fiat. So thank you, Preston.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. You can, I don't know if you want to, I mean, we can continue having you here. We love having you here, but either you log out, close the browser window, or I don't like to throw Preston out of the party. Like, that's not going to happen ever.
Are we still live?
We're still, no. Oh, we're not. Yeah, we are actually.
You are still, okay. I'll just hang up, and guys, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Now we can go to the after party. Thanks. That'd be great.
Yeah. All right. See you on the next one, man. Bye. Yep. So I'm gonna help you here, Preston. Although I don't like to do it, but
where's Preston?
Well, he had to leave 40 minutes ago, I think, or 30 minutes ago. Yeah, you're not live. Hey, chat, I just want to shout out to you guys, man, for imagine impressing Preston and having him say this about the chat. I got to tell you, Pubby, my mind is blown by the awesomeness of these two guys. I had my important questions answered about how MicroStrategy can take on more debt without growing the company they can take on more debt just because the price of Bitcoin is going up, which it will do. That is a given. The supply is really disappearing. Imagine. I just want to. Can you give me a heads up if you're gonna like crash on the show here, or are you gonna be hanging out, or are you leaving me?
I'm hanging out. Give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'll give Puppy 2 minutes here. Chairforce, you son of a gun, you old veteran. Yeah. So I'll keep it going. I can rant a little bit. Wait, what did he say? Yeah. All right, so let me tell you guys, I woke up. All right, my alarm was going off at 8 a.m. I had my 8 hours of sleep, but I had been looking, not completely, because I was looking at Bitcoin Twitter around like 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., which is always a mistake. So I was still sleepy. So I was just snoozing until 9 a.m. And then like at 9 a.m., I'm like, all right, there's an hour to Pierre coming on. I need to get up and get ready. And then I see on my notifications on the phone that guy tried to call me, Puppy tried to call me. I call him back and he's like, Anders, dude, like we have Preston Pysh is coming on the show with Pierre. I'm like, wait, we have Pierre today. What are you talking about, Preston Pysh? And he told me about how Preston asked Pierre if he could gate crash. And Jesus Christ, like last Friday, Knut Svanholm stepped in and saved me because I hung out with Puppy, who was sleeping, live on air. I recommend everyone going back and watch the Pre-Club episode, especially about 1 hour and 15 minutes. When what in the pup? What in the pup? So it's your turn now to allow me to reset my node. And Papa, we're going to talk about how stupidly bullish this is, even though both of them didn't want to go out on a limb and say, this is it. This is the cycle. But I got to tell you, my talks with especially Greg Saj and Plan Marcus has made me, I mean, come on, I'm stupid bullish. I think, we're going above 500,000 this year, I think, to be honest. I'm not going to make that a prediction because it may not happen. But, that's the thing. Now I'm rolling, Puppy. I'm rolling now. So I'm rolling. Just watch the chat. So I think it's going above half. No. Going above 500,000 is it could be happening. I don't want to make it a prediction, but it could be happening. The likelihood is increasing. All right, Puppy, back to you. I'll let you say a few words. I'll pay attention to the first 20 seconds, and then I will be resetting my note.
Oh, we're still live? I thought this was like the back channel green room. We're good?
It's the green room, and Preston left immediately. We entered green room because he didn't want to. He had enough of both of us. So
Preston loved us, dude. Preston loved us. He'll be back.
I would say he loved the chat, but it was a good conversation. I don't know if you remember Last Samurai when the samurai is saying to Tom Cruise, because he'd learned English, this was a good conversation. I love that movie, just like I love Tombstone, and this was a great conversation.
Look, what can you say, man? We had a blast. When you get Pierre Rochard and Preston Pysh on your show, you take it. It'll be fun. Here we are.
Hey, and thank you, Puppy, for that ingenious thought of getting him on with Andy. He wants to come on with Andy. He better. Yes. I think like maybe he doesn't like to gate crash a second time, but we need Preston to have the conversation with Andy. And just like today, let them talk for half an hour before we say anything. So all right, this one is on you, Puppy. I do need to reset the note. You better carry it right now. We got 81 live viewers. I want to see
Where?
At least the same when I'm coming back. Wait, it's getting racist. Why is it getting racist?
What's getting racist?
Oh, it's because she's from Russia. What? So Plan Marcus, and I just can't leave it, but Plan Marcus is saying he's a THH hodler, bear and bull market through. And Yeah, I'm gonna leave you on that note. I need to reset my note and see what I've got in the fridge, baby.
Reset. Oh, so that's it. It's over. The game is over. And then there was one, quietly, silently waiting to talk Bitcoin with someone.
What the hell? Where is Puppy? Jesus Christ, where's Puppy? I come back after 1 minute. Wait. Wait, Jesus Christ, where's Puppy? What the hell? Yeah, Puppy, like you're not here to defend yourself now. What's going on, man? What? Jesus Christ, can you guys in the chat tell me what the hell just happened to Puppy? Come on. All right, so I'm going to call you a bear, Puppy. I'm going to call you a little tiny grizzly bear. If you cannot handle 40 seconds on THH alone, come on, you're not scared of the chat. Seriously. All right, Greggy, you've been on here before. I'm going to send you the invite. Greggy, can you let me know in the chat, Greggy, can you join? I think Knut Svanholm is not on right now to join. Greggy, let me know in the chat if you can join. Chairforce, can you join? Make sure you should take out a loan by house big on. Yes. All right. Here's so that is probably summing up the show. I need to watch this and see what the fuck what happened with Poppy. You can't so Greggy, I thought so. He can't join. RD, who from the chat that I already know and know I'm not bringing on, something extremely unknown, could possibly. Why do we still have 81 viewers? There's like 0 content left. This is just me desperately looking for a co-host. You know what? I'm just gonna go. All right, I'll take this baby. The THH bear market to 0. That's it. I don't care. I don't need a co-host that is busy being a girlfriend for someone. I'm gonna write this to the bottom. I will stay around. So here we go. So on that note, Pierre, amazing. What a smart guy. I want to interact a little bit more with the chat now that I got plenty of. Yeah, this is the best after party. Imagine the after party where you have one person. But you don't. You have one and you have the chat. Let me somebody who has Poppy's number by any chance, call him and tell him to rise and shine. It's only 3 p.m. Eastern. Like, what's going on? If you replace the B in the all right, so here we go. If you replace the B's with S in Poppy. Oh, I didn't see that before I put it on the screen. It's not that kind of show. But I just want to say, Poppy, you may have a new nickname, right? So hey guys, thanks for hanging out. All right, let me get some questions or something from the chat. Not that you need my opinion, but because I see the smartest people in this space hanging out, and I mean it when it goes when it goes to when it comes to the chat and the level of genius you need to have to make funny memes. Yep, we are going down in flames, sci-fi. All right, so let me okay, I'll go back to what I find very important in this show, and that is something that I've been asking Preston on Twitter for a while. He did answer it, but I'm like, it's so mind-blowing, it can't possibly be real. But so what is different in this cycle than the previous cycles is that due to COVID stimulus, even companies that are listed on the stock exchange started to realize that the millions and millions and potentially billions of dollars that we have on our balance sheet are melting away like an ice cube in the sun, the value of that fiat currency. Because when they go out and increase the money supply by 30%, clearly the value of the dollar goes down, and it will lead to inflation. Maybe not consumer price inflation because consumers don't have the money, but it leads to asset inflation. I don't know what that means, but so that led to I would call an absolutely milestone event of Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, saying, look, we can't have 500 million sitting on the balance sheet. We need to convert to Bitcoin because Bitcoin can store value, unlike fiat currency. And the fact that he converted $425 million to Bitcoin, that is a signal, a publicly listed company on the #1 stock exchange market in the world, which is United States. Publicly listed company says, no, we don't like the dollar, the so-called global world reserve currency. We would like ourselves some Bitcoin. So he ended up, there were a little bit of stock buyback, I believe, or dividend, and then 425 of the 500 was what he bought Bitcoin for. A couple of weeks later, Michael Saylor bought for another 50 million. I guess he had a little, let's call it milk money lying around in the drawer somewhere, and so he converted another 50 million. Then he was up to $475 million worth of purchase of Bitcoin. That went above $1 billion in value. And then end of November, I believe it was, he said, and Andy called this 3 months before Michael Saylor did this speculative attack on the dollar by simply taking on fiat currency debt, which is dollar, and going long Bitcoin. That's a speculative attack, as Pierre mentioned. It is absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. It's poetry in the financial world. It's Bitcoin poetry. And Andy, he foresaw this happening. He's coming on this show on Monday, which is going to be a tough one for me because we are going off from, I think it's 8 a.m. or 8:30 in the morning, California time, that's going to be a challenge. But I'll try and go back into my old mode of having to get up for a value creating fiat paying job. So that's just 3 days from now. So what I want to say with Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, that is a milestone that a company makes that move. And now we hear Michael Saylor has bought Bitcoin to store value, but what it does in reality, it increases in a lot of value. He bought $650 million worth of Bitcoin second time around. That's gone above $1 billion. So he's worth, I mean, he has made what? I mean, I don't know if someone in the chat can tell me. Let's watch Anders' Orange Pill. Amen. So I don't know if you've seen Clockwork Orange, but that's a pretty sick movie. But yeah, I'm orange pilling all I can. I don't mind going on a bit of rant. Puppy knows that. That's why he keeps telling me to be quiet. But hey, he left. He chickened out. He did another. I would call Pubby's exit for scam exit. He exits here the scam. He had to go buy some crypto or something. But listen, so all of that, the fact that MicroStrategy converts dollar to Bitcoin is a huge thing. Then he does the speculative attack, selling fiat debt to buy Bitcoin, another milestone. Like that was two of the biggest milestones in Bitcoin's history, happened last year from one guy. That's why he's the Giga Chat. Now, what is so mind-blowing to me, I'll honestly admit, is that that as Preston confirmed, that's why I was really happy to have him. I mean, obviously, I'm happy to have Preston on. I mean, come on, I'm pinching myself here to have Pierre and Preston on the same show. And by the way, it's not a show. This is a party. This is the pop. And thanks to you guys in the chat. So what is so mind-blowing, which what Preston confirmed is that MicroStrategy don't even have to level up their profit in their business intelligence service. They can sell more convertible bonds alone on the fact that the price of Bitcoin goes up, which means that the debt they took on some debt to buy the Bitcoin, but the equity in the company is growing. And just because Bitcoin's price is growing, MicroStrategy and MicroStrategy can take on even more debt to buy more Bitcoin, to push the price higher and to decrease the size of the corrections. And the big difference is that when private people go buy Bitcoin on leverage, they have to put that Bitcoin up as collateral, which means that when the price has a correction, Michael Saylor isn't selling one Satoshi when there's a correction. If you're a private investor going leverage on BitMEX, for instance, your Bitcoin is forced to be sold, and that means it accelerates a correction. So that's probably one of the reasons we had 30% corrections in the 16-17 bull run. And it's also the very reason that in March, when COVID really hit the fan, that correction in Bitcoin's price was 50% down in 8 hours. I don't know if you guys, I watched that live. That was insane. Guys, I will pay attention to the chat soon, but being alone and having to keep my train of thought because someone named P used something else, ending with a Y, did another exit scam from the Toxic Happy Hour. But God, I love my friend Pubby. I love having him on. And our conversations, I just love talking Bitcoin with Pubby. You guys know that. But what I'm trying to get to with MicroStrategy is that that you have MicroStrategy never selling, but every time it goes up a certain amount, he can sell more convertible bonds and buy more Bitcoin. You have a couple of companies doing this, and they'll be like, so one company is doing another convertible bonds, pushing the price $500 higher, which allows MicroStrategy to go, hey, I can push it. Now I can sell more convertible bonds and push it $500 higher. Then you have Google and Apple and Microsoft over here. So they all take steps in a way that no one is ever forced to sell if there's a correction. We're talking about buying demand on Bitcoin that will never be squeezed into a sell, which is all right. Chair folks, I absolutely give you that. This is ramble. You're gonna have to blame Pubby for this because he wasn't here to have a conversation for me because for 40 seconds I had to reset my note after a 2-hour show. But that I think is really important to understand. I mean, that in itself is extremely bullish that these companies can keep buying, even though their profit line is not growing, they can keep buying more Bitcoin just because the price of Bitcoin goes up, which is already an inevitability. To me, that function right there in itself is enough to take us to escape velocity. On top of that, add that okay, I opened this. Pubby's not here to give me a breathing break. Excuse me for I need to help myself and my voice here. And Chair, he knows that because I'm just talking. Shout out to all of you, Sean, Coach Bailey Cooper, Chair Force, Sasa, everyone else in the chat. Give me 2 seconds here. So good, so good. Another very, very bullish thing in this specific functioning of selling convertible bonds and mine Bitcoin and just keep pushing the price higher without ever creating any sell pressure is that, as Preston explained today, these convertible bonds allow people, investors with some of the biggest amounts of money out there, to buy the convertible bonds and convert it into stock, which has gone through the roof because of Bitcoin. So you now, with convertible bonds buying Bitcoin, have created an absolutely bullish functionality, which is that the biggest investors that today, through charters, not allowed to buy Bitcoin, they can buy convertible bonds that will go through the roof because they're essentially buying Bitcoin with those convertible bonds. So what you're having now is you have basically, with convertible bonds buying Bitcoin, opened up, correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much everyone out there have access to buying Bitcoin. Even the ones that weren't allowed to buy Bitcoin, they can buy bonds because we can do claims on fiat. So they can buy these bonds, and it has opened up. Look, this is floodgates of trillions of dollars of I'm not allowed to buy Bitcoin money to actually go into Bitcoin, because they're going to convert those bonds and get MicroStrategy stock, which means, and that is becoming worth a lot because of Bitcoin. So this is absolutely mind blowing and super bullish. And honestly, that, like, those two things, I mean, in itself, it's enough to be escape velocity at this cycle. All right, so my definition of escape velocity, and that is, I think once Bitcoin reaches a market cap like gold, which is around, I think, $12 trillion now, I think that narrative, and Preston was onto something here, like once the narrative in mass media, which controls the mind of the masses, once that changes into, but we all know it's going to 2 million, so we are buying at 500 and we are buying more in the dip, that bear market is going to have a really hard time being a bear market, because they will be like, hey, it's even cheaper now. And due to our knowledge, thank you, Greg, of stock to flow, S2FX, and our confidence in a $5 million Bitcoin, that is creating a situation where the level of fear in a bear market likely will get a lot less and will prevent the bear market, because mass media will be talking about, hopefully, these guys saying, yeah, that's fine, it's cheaper now because we know we're going to 5 million. When you know you're going to 5 million, you go to infinity. That's it. I mean, once you know that it's 100% cap and they can print all the fiat currency that they want, which keeps losing value, it automatically puts us at infinity for Bitcoin. And so when I agree with I mean, obviously I agree with Preston, I mean, duh, but this point from Preston, with once the narrative in the mass media change from like in 17, Warren Buffett calling it rat poison Bitcoin, to mass media listening to the biggest hedge fund founders and CEOs of the world saying, yeah, that's fine, we dropped from 500 to 400,000 per Bitcoin, but we know we're going to 2 million and 5 million, so we're buying more now because it's cheaper. So it's gonna be that's gonna be yeah, that's, I'm so crazy bullish. And I need another sip because my throat, and plan Marcus, my boy, it wants to stack more sets now. I want to stack more sets now. I am so bullish. So give me another Modelo chance to give my throat a freshen up. Cheers to you guys in the chat. Cheers. Thanks for hanging around and honestly helping me live the dream, because there's nothing I love more. See, I can't even take a break because I can't stop talking. This is what Puppy has to deal with. Me not being able to. It's not true. I can't keep a break and give airtime to Puppy. I mean, just look at the show. How he keeps not giving me a chance to speak. Say, hey, you're not here to defend yourself now, Puppy. You little exit scam. Cheers, Plan Marcus, Coach Bailey Kuba, Sean, the rest of you, Dr. Drew Humphrey. All right, I'll enforce myself a break here. It's really good. I gotta tell you, nice. Look, my fridge is put extra cold, and an extra cold Modelo Special is it's gold. So, there was another thing I wanted to say. Okay, yeah. This is okay. So, Greg and Plan Marcus and MicroChat, I had a conversation with you guys yesterday on Zoom where we were discussing our more bullish wet dreams on the price of Bitcoin, even for this year. And we didn't even talk too much about MicroStrategy. First off, Greg, you had a really important point with. So I don't know if everyone has seen Plan B's graph showing the development in the price of Bitcoin post halving. So you got there is a graph. It's the three price graphs after halvings. The one in November 12, the one in summer 16, and the one we had in May 2020. And the fact is that I was trying to be conservative and expect a less aggressive bull run this time around, but it's been even more bullish. And I claim that quantitative easing due to COVID stimulus is creating this more bullish situation, and where the price is moving up faster because you have companies like MicroStrategy to take Bitcoin through the roof and just keep buying. And he will keep buying. He's got, how many convertible bonds will he do in 2022? Oh, sorry, 2021. Probably can't do them in 2022 because by that time nobody want to hold the fiat anymore. That may be a little bit too bullish. But so the point is, the conversation I had with MicroChat, Greg, Sash, Plan Marcus is so. And this was the initial basis of our discussion that, hey, this bull run is steeper than the 16, 17. It's somewhere in between the very, very insane bullish or steep 2013. It was so steep in 2013 that we even had a blow off top in April 2013, and then another one in around, I think, the 30th of November 2013. So that was the most steep bull run we've had post halving. 16, 17, I mean, come on, Bitcoin did 20x from even the 1st of January 17, approximately 6 months after the halving, until the end of 17, did 20x. Now we have a bull run that we can see on this graph that Plan B sometime tweets out, where this bull run is actually significantly steeper than the 16, 17 bull run. And that's when that kind of triggered our conversation on Zoom, because I said, look, guys, we're steeper than what did 20x in 17. And we are at a more steep point, like 2021 is at a more steep point of the bull run than 2017 was for that bull run, because basically they're having momentum. The post-halving momentum has built up for more months, couple of more months before reaching 1st of January. So what I'm saying is, look, the less steep bull run in 2017 did 20x. So let's say we're more steep. Let's say we do 30x. You know, we are significantly more steep this time around than 17. 30x. What was the price of entry of Bitcoin 1st of January? It was 30,000. So imagine if we do, over the course of 2021, do 30x on that entry price of 30,000, that's $900,000 Bitcoin right there. Now, this is not financial advice. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. So it's going to be some there. I mean, it's going to be out there, but basically, I mean, it makes me thinking that thought, saying, hey, we are steeper, we got to do more than 20x. Look, 20x is 600,000. That right there is mind-blowing. That's gold. That is above gold market cap. So if we do more than that, like 30x, and we get close to 1 million, how is that not escape velocity? I think if Bitcoin goes 50 to 100% above gold market cap, how can the narrative in mass media not absolutely change and make people, even the journalists that don't understand that MicroStrategy is not a Bitcoin ETF, I have high enough hopes for their level of understanding that they can see that that the narrative of world in the money in the world is changing, and that once Bitcoin has taken over gold by 50 to 100%, come on guys, it's game over. Bitcoin is going to take over. But I mean, so it's, as I told Preston, it's like, you know, which one do I prefer? Do you want to see Bitcoin at infinity in 2022? Because I'm enjoying fighting the front lines with you guys in the chat that I know so many of, and with Pubby, the exit bear. I think that's going to be his new name, Pubby, the exit bear. Somebody tweet that at him. It's just extremely bullish. All right, that's a lot of ranting from my side, and when I don't have a co-host to sometimes talk, so I can pay attention to the chat, I haven't been fully able to take a view on the chat. Let me just say the conversation with my three boys there, Microchat, Greg Shash, and Plan Marcus. Greg said, reminded me or made me aware, which I hadn't really thought too much about, but it's extremely bullish, that, yeah, Anders, you're right, but this time around, people know S2FX, and they're right now real-time seeing S2FX from Plan B, the mathematical statistical significant model saying that Bitcoin is going to go to at least 288,000 in this cycle. The awareness of that we didn't have in 17 is helping these professional investors to now have a mathematical foundation for believing and understanding that, look, Bitcoin is going to, you know, not only 500,000, not only 2 million, not only 5 million, not only 10 million, it's going to infinity. That model, which the price right now is confirming, is helping financial invest, like the professional investor that has the most money, to take this to infinity sooner, because they have seen the model, they understand it, they know it's happening. So that was Greg. Marcus had a great point that I want to share, because I've been calling for, Pubby the exit bear. Pubby the exit bear is his new name. Look, on last night's tweet, where I send out again that to let everyone know that the schedule had changed from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m. because Pierre, like the meetings he mentioned, are actually chair burning conferences where he will go and burn chairs. It's actually happening because if you own a chair, you don't own sats that chair cost you. So we need to reduce the amount of ownership of anything so we can own more sats. None of it is financial advice. It is friendly advice. It's not advice, actually. It's just my opinion. But so what Plan Marcus said was, because I have been saying for a long time, due to the slower acceleration of stock to flow, which I believe is a main driver of the price of Bitcoin, due to the slow acceleration, it would take longer time. This bull run would take longer time. But Plan Marcus had a really good point of saying, yeah, Anders, but it is steeper now. And because it's steeper, because of COVID stimulus, quantitative easing on steroids, we could very likely see that the top, as you said, Plan Marcus, and you're there in the chat, that the top could happen earlier, because when we're steeper, you also read that euphoric FOMO level early on in the cycle, and when you reach high enough and you know, euphoric enough and FOMO enough, and everyone's running in, that could cause that peak to happen earlier, which means that, you know, 900,000 that I throw out there for December, hey, that might even happen in August, like Plan Marcus said. He didn't say that price. I think Plan Marcus, you said 700,000, but like a couple of weeks ago, I said we'll reach at least 300,000 Q1 2022. My mindset through these conversations, and that's why it's so great to talk to other Bitcoiners that are really smart people. Most Bitcoiners really are. I mean, all Bitcoiners seems to me are smart people. It's that kind of expectation has changed for me to me thinking that, yeah, sure, of course we're going above 500,000. I don't want to make it as a prediction, but like this year, why not? I mean, we're more steep, so why are we not doing 30x instead of 20x? Even if we do 20x, we're at 600,000. All right, that was a lot of ranting. Let me see if you guys have any questions in the chat. We are now gone. We've gone 2.5 hours. I don't want to ruin Daniel Prince's record of 3 hours and 22 minutes, which Daniel Prince, our amazing podcaster who has Once Bitten podcast, he's been on the show twice. One of the nicest and smartest guys in Bitcoin, Daniel Prince. And I'd really hate to take that record away from him, because I know he wants it, and then he'll come back on and then we'll do 4 hours. Hey, maybe I should do that. All right, so here's something important. We broke all-time high earlier also. So Plan Marcus, I presume you said less amount of months and days went from having to break in the all-time high. Lapra, so who's this Lapra character anyway? Free Lapra, but who is Lapra anyway? Free Lapra, all right, Free Lapra. Not our boy in South America, but our dog in South America. Another great memer. And yeah, get back on Twitter, dog. All right. I think I don't know why I see 59 live viewers, because I see 3 people in the chat or something, 4 people. Shout out to all of you guys. Too many to mention, honestly. But thank you for impressing Preston with the best chat in this space, with the smartest minds, the best memes. Yeah, and you're correct, Marty. It is the only record that ever mattered. It's not about how fast you can run. No, it's how long can you survive on THH with Pubby, the exit bear on the show. All right, so any questions? Because I don't want to like dilute it with like, I did all the rambling I wanted to do, I think. And my, you know, I don't know. I'm like $1 million in 2021. It's not financial advice, but honestly, you can't rule it out. You know, at this stage, from, you know, all the things that have happened since COVID. I mean, COVID has been a bad thing, but you know what? It's going to make the world a better place faster, because once we have a deflationary money, and again, I want to shout out to Jeff Booth, who was on the show in November. I recommend going back and watching that. And you know what, guys? We're not doing Toxic Happy Hour for money. We're doing it because we love it. I doubt that anyone will ever sponsor a shit show or clown show like Toxic Happy Hour. But if they do, I hereby declare that all of that income would go to steak and drinks and entertainment for the guys that are making this happen, which is not just me and the exit bear Pubby, but clearly like we got Plan Marcus came up with the idea of Bernie and Ert. Chairforce is making the dead thumbnail. So everyone, Chairforce, go follow him. He's in the show notes. Like most of these guys, actually, you in the chat, a lot of you are in the show notes. Go down on YouTube and find the links and the descriptions of their true personalities. And go follow these guys on Twitters, because if you want the best entertainment right now in a COVID world, you will find it on these memers accounts. They are mind-blowingly funny. So yeah, go follow these guys. I think I lost my train of thought, and I don't have someone to talk in the meantime, so I can catch up. Sean, thank you very much. I'm super glad to have got to know you just a couple of days ago, a little bit. I'm looking forward to see you in real life. Sean is a pro basketballer from US, as I understand, but playing in Spain, where I figure you're probably MVP in the basket league of Spain. Although they're quite good, that's why you're there, of course. But I could imagine you're playing some serious ball there. Listen, guys, any questions from the chat? This is on YouTube. In case you don't know, you can go to the chat and ask questions. Sean is saying not him, but yeah. Oh no, Sean is saying he is the best player in Spain. Good on you, Sean. I love the self-confidence right there. Oh, so the Telegram link. It may or may not be in the show notes below. It is in all of the new schedule show notes. We have a Telegram group for Toxic Happy Hour, and you will in the future find it in newly scheduled Toxic Happy Hours. It may not be there right now, but I mean, watch another show in the near future, and then it will be there. I mean, hey, I may even throw it in here later, because I got to work in Preston Pysh, who came on the show as well. So big Sean Harris. Wait, are you Sean or Sean Harris? Like, who are you there with two profiles or what? That's how we pump the view numbers. We have a lot of people with 7 to 15 accounts watching at the same time. We appreciate it. That's how we'll get Guinness as a sponsor, to have someone over there in my living room preparing the next Guinness for when the first one runs out. That's the kind of sponsorship I want. They'll say, we'll pay you $1,000 a month. To say, no, I just want someone to pour me Guinness. All right. Coach Bailey Cooper. Greg has the link for the Telegram. Oh, yeah. Greg has the link. Coach Cooper, you're most welcome. I do what I love to do here, talking Bitcoin bullish with really smart people, both on the show and in the chat, and also Pubby the exit bear. Right? There's the smart people, and then there's the exit bears who leave their co-host hanging. And I wonder if that could be memed. I'm not a memer. So anyways, guys, once again, thank you so much for watching. I don't know why you're still here, but I'm bullish. I am so bullish. Like 500,000, 1 million, I don't know. But if it's not happening this year, it's happening before Christine Lagarde ever could imagine. So she better print some of those dirty Euro fiat currency bills and buy Bitcoin. And she's, by the way, a convicted money launderer. I can't believe she's still, well, I guess it makes sense she's still ahead of some financial institution in Europe if she's a convicted money launderer or corruption or overspending of government, of public money on her private things. Guys, thank you so much. I'll do another outro here. I needed to do one for Preston. I'll do it again. So it's a repeat of the same. Please be careful storing more value in dirty fiat currency than you can afford to lose. The last 108 years of central banking policy has proven, and it's even their official policy, that it's good for you that we wipe out the value of your savings. Really? You believe that wiping out your savings is good for you? Why do you buy that? Why are you buying into that notion of, hey, it's good that they ruin the money that I hold my savings in? No, of course it's not. Don't believe the lies of mass media, which are produced and owned and manipulated by central banks and deep state. Stop believing in that nonsense, manipulation and enslavement of humanity, that your savings are going to who prints it. That is an enslavement of the value of your labor, and you think you're free. You think you have freedom of speech. You think that your vote in your democracy counts or matters. No, deep states got your back for real. On that note, I love you guys. Thanks for watching. I can't believe you're still here. 52 of you. Toxic Happy Hour. I'm bullish on the content. What can I say? I love the fact that Preston wanted to come on, that Pierre even accepted to come on. Come on, Pierre Rochard. Guys, have a great Friday afternoon. I know that I need to go give my voice a rest and probably open up another one and probably restart the computer and reset the couple of notes. And I want you guys to have a great Friday. Take care of yourselves. Have a beer, chill out, and smile. Look, whatever your circumstances are, don't be upset about things you can't change. You can't change COVID, so suck it up wherever you are. Of course, I'm not talking about if you lost someone, loved one. That is terribly sad. What I'm trying to say is, whatever circumstances you can change, don't waste your energy on that. Focus on the things in life that you can change. This is what I learned from Stephen Covey, that wrote the famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Focus your energy on things you can change. Accept the circumstances. If you can't change them, don't waste 80% of your energy nagging about them and crying about them. You got to move on and improve your life the best you can. God, I love you guys. I love, Pierre, Preston, and also a tiny bit, I do still love Puppy the Exit Bear. Love all of you in the chat. Have a wonderful weekend. On that note, bye.